All right, doing some upper body stuff. I don't really love always working the back of my shoulder, so I like to front load my workouts with stuff that I don't like that much. It actually makes it easy to warm up, and it makes it easy to get that stuff out of the way, because once I start doing all the stuff that I like, I'll talk myself out of doing the stuff that I don't like. So a little bit of rear delt stuff, gonna warm up the shoulders, maybe a little bit of rotator cuff stuff, and then I'll get into cool stuff. Dumbbell bench pressing, some regular bench pressing with the slingshot on today. And I want to show you guys and take you inside some of the products that we have, and we're developing more stuff, some new stuff that you guys, I think, will really enjoy a lot. So here we go. And there's no reason why we can't have a little fun with this and do some curls in between, right? Remember, the fastest way to get warmed up for a workout is through your upper body. This will get some blood circulating throughout the entire body. You can move into doing some of these guys. You can do some front raises. Any upper body stuff is going to get you warmed up. It's going to help the lower back and the rest of your body feel a little bit more lucerist. I don't know what that guy's doing in the background. He's fast though. This is probably the single easiest exercise to do to try to help balance out your shoulders a little bit. This alone is not going to do the trick, but this is a great start to do 3 or 4 sets of this 1 to 2 times per week, so we don't end up walking around like a douchebag. Can do a gun walk. I like doing these, getting in some steps, getting in some walking, while doing some other movements. Probably one of the most interesting things I've learned over the years about problems, whether they're my own or whether they're somebody else's. Somebody will bring up a problem, they'll have a complaint. A good note on that is, don't complain unless you're A, available to hear information that can help solve your complaint, or B, that you don't propose some solutions to that problem that you're going to state. It's just a kind of healthier way of thinking. That way it's just not a complaint. And on complaints, do your best to not end a complaint with a period, instead with a question mark. Like, for example, I have a bad left shoulder. That's not a great way to speak. Instead of saying I have a bad left shoulder, say, I have a bad left shoulder. Can somebody help? My left shoulder is uncomfortable. Got any suggestions for me? These are better ways to frame it. But anyway, back to complaining. A lot of times we'll say, I got a bad shoulder, I got a bad knee. And when we say that, my follow-up question to most people is, what are you doing about it? And a lot of times, unfortunately, people feel that they tried everything. And that's usually not the case, because if they tried everything, they would probably be over that problem. I know that it feels that way, and you feel overwhelmed, and you're pissed that your shoulder hurts. I get it, because pain is very aggravating, it's very frustrating, it's very crippling, and it can leave you kind of paralyzed. It doesn't allow you sometimes to get moving in the direction that you would go in. But a lot of times the solution is quite different than what we think. Usually the solution is to, if something's uncomfortable, you're going to have to do things that are going to even be more uncomfortable to get over that. That would be part of the solution. So in the case of having anything that really hurts, spend a lot of time warming it up, and you'll find that it will hurt less. It might not help you get over the problem, but if you're somebody that has elbow pain every time you bench, every time you do dips, anytime you do some of these pushing motions, spend a lot of time getting a lot of blood into those elbows via many different exercises. Get a crazy pump, and then you'll notice when you go to do your exercises, you might be able to put on some elbow sleeves or some knee sleeves, or whatever it might be, to assist you to get through that particular workout for the day. So I would advise just not even complaining in general, unless you're currently doing something about it. That way you can say to your buddy, friend, wife, significant other, you could say, man, even though I'm doing these exercises for my shoulder, they still really hurt. What do you think I can have done for it? So, I used to not warm up. I used to not do other exercises. The only exercise I would do was the main movement. So if I was going to warm up for bench press, I would just start bench pressing with the bar, and I'd work my way up. But now, I feel like there's too many other things for me to explore. I want to be more athletic, and I want to be able to move better. So I don't want my workouts to have a negative impact on my overall movement. So why not take the time to warm up a little bit better, be in slightly better positions throughout an entire workout, cause less damage in positions that I don't have to worry about getting myself into because I'm warmed up properly, and I don't have to have the same compromise on the muscle tissues. So that's why I just take my time a little bit more with some warm-up type stuff. And the same thing could be said about running. Like, I don't think that you need to do a whole lot before you run. However, you might find it advantageous to stretch the hammies, stretch the quads, stretch the calves, stretch your hip flexors and stuff like that before a run. Not necessarily for what it will do for you for that particular day. You're not all of a sudden going to be more limber for that particular run, but maybe you just run in a slightly better position for the whole entire day. And then what's your recovery going to look like from that, right? So, all things to think about. Another thing I'm going to do that's a little different for me is I'm going to bring these dumbbells down and in and just try to get a really good stretch. And again, the reason for this is like, I'm not like overly obsessed with like my chest development at this point. Chest looks pretty good. It's pretty jacked. I'm pretty pumped about it. And I just want to have more range of motion. So you're going to see me do a lot of single arm stuff. Try to get these shoulders to open up, especially for when I'm running. It's tough for me to get my shoulders like back, so why not press from some of these positions? A really simple thing on a bench press, if I had to just give you one cue or one tip, because there are a lot of things we can do with the elbows and a lot of things we do with the hands and all this different stuff, right? If I can give you just one thing to do, it's just pull those elbows back hard as you're coming down. Not necessarily fast, but like pull the weight towards you like you're doing a row. And I'll show you an exercise that you can do after this, that you can do with a slingshot on to help demonstrate that. If you don't have a slingshot, you could set up a reverse band in the rack, which I'll show you that as well. But take the weight down, take it down about halfway, and then just pull like you're doing a seated row. How does it look when you do a seated row? When you do a seated row, you pull your chest up, right? So we're gonna pull, press. When we pull, hopefully that shoulder is coming down and in. And now we're not only kind of back here, but we're like retracted. The shoulder's not, it's not protracted. It's not, I think that's what it's called. It's not like this, okay? When we bench press, we need the shoulder to be like this. It needs to be like in a pocket. It needs to slide. It needs to slide, and then it needs to click, click, click in. It needs to kind of click into this point. And it's really hard to put into words. That's why I'm trying to simplify it for you right now by just saying pull. So I guess like it's kind of hard to get for me to literally get away with one cue, but pull and pull your chest up. Stop halfway, pull, and pull your chest up. Come down halfway, pull with the back, and pull your chest up. When I first started powerlifting, keep in mind, the head judge at my first powerlifting competition was Abraham Lincoln. So it was quite some time ago. But we used to say big chest. And we'd say big chest on all three lifts. You'd hear someone say big chest, big chest. Now you might hear someone say big air, or some of these things that you yell out. We're trying to encourage the lifter, but big chest is like something from the past. I don't know what, I guess I know why it lost its, there's like a language barrier with newer people coming in. And sometimes if you tell somebody big chest, then they get in this crazy weird position where they're overextended. And so that's probably where we decided, maybe that's not a good cue for everybody, but for most people, it's a really good cue, especially when it comes to bench pressing. But even when it comes to deadlifting, locking those weights in and locking them into your lats, your back, your thoracic spine. There's a lot of important things going on in powerlifting. The most important thing is consistency. But if we had to pick the most important muscles that are involved, I would say it's your back. The difference between a strong lifter and a poor lifter is their back, the strength of their back. And I don't just mean lower back, but all the way from right here, all the way down. Can I reach my heel? All the way down here. And how do you get a strong back? You get a strong back by doing every exercise you can think of for the back. And it might not make sense sometimes. You're like, no. I know this stuff. I heard on YouTube from this other guy that it's bench press is a chest movement. Well, of course it's a chest movement. I'm not saying it's not a chest movement. I'm just saying a really critical part of this is for you to have a really strong back. And when you look at some of these monsters that are bench pressing big weights, you look at them from the front and you're always like, damn, this guy, holy shit. Big arms, big shoulders, look at those shoulders, wow. The guy turns around though, and that's when you flip out and you're like, holy shit. There's other movements in powerlifting where somebody can like kind of lay low on. Can't lay low on the bench press. If you're benching big weights, you're gonna be jacked. And if you're benching big weights, you're gonna have a really wide back. Remember, we're driving our heels through the floor. I'm doing like a leg extension. I'm pushing myself this way, but I'm not moving anywhere because I just set myself up on my traps. Again, that's super training. Super training rule number 1 is there are no rules, and rule number 2 is that you grab the bar and you pull yourself into position on all 3 lifts. That's the way you lift weights. So as I bring the weight down, I'm gonna pull the weight to and through my body. I'm gonna flex my biceps and flex my back, and on the way up, I'm gonna pull the bar apart. Heels are driven towards the ground. Even if you're on your toes, you're driving your heels towards the ground. They don't have to necessarily be making contact with the ground, but you're driving them through or towards the ground. That helps keep the chest up. There was a comedian years ago, I don't know if anybody knows this, recognizes this, but my too fat and so fat thing that I always talk about. Most people can say, yeah, I'm a little bit too fat, meaning like you just have a couple lbs that you want to lose, you want to tighten up. I think that's kind of like everybody, right? But then they're so fat. That's when you really accumulated the pounds, and other people are talking about how you are so fat. Man, I know that guy. He's so fat. That's the way we talk in here, so don't take any abuse to it. But the comedian, I forget what the guy's name was, but he said, there's too fat, there's so fat, and there's damn. I always thought that was good. So we got the fat bar, and we're gonna do some fat bar curls. And we do these fat bar curls, we're gonna do what's called the drag curl. So just put your hips back just a little bit, that way you don't drag it across your wiener, unless that's, keep your hips forward, I guess, if you want. But I'm gonna keep mine back just a little bit, and then you just drag it along your body. You try to keep it in tight to your body. People often ask about, what to do about elbow pain. Well, you want to work on what you can work on and fix what you can fix. So there's things that you can do, like ordering a pair of elbow sleeves. First of all, that's very great from a preventative standpoint. But if you're already in pain, then you also might want to get some elbow sleeves because it will help protect you during your workouts. But you're going to have to explore and do exercises and stretches and a lot of other movements in order to promote blood flow to that area. You also might want to get some active release therapy from a doctor, some sort of massage therapy, something. If you look up soft tissue management or find someone in your area that does active release therapy, that'd be a great place to start. I get active release therapy done almost every single week. Sometimes it's just maintenance to keep ahead of everything, and sometimes it's like, hey, I got a little owie here, let's work on it. But if you need more support because you have an acute injury and you have a lot of pain in the elbow, you could always wrap this way. With all of our wraps, almost every single wrap that we have does this, and then you can wrap that up however tight you need to get that, and you can loop that around. Sometimes you might need somebody to help you with it depending on how complex it is or how tight you need to get it. But a lot of people kill themselves on doing a squat and they're trying to get those elbows underneath the rack. First things first is like you need to address your shoulder mobility. Obviously it's shitty, that's why there's so much stress here. But like that's gonna take a while to fix, right? So because it's gonna take a while to fix, you might need to order compression cuffs that we sell at mbslingshot.com, or get a pair of gangster wraps that you can wrap that area up, or throw on a pair of elbow sleeves. I had a shoulder injury for a while where my shoulder was really like, this left shoulder was like done. I was like, holy shit, I need to get an MRI. Like, what happened to it? I couldn't use it to drive. I couldn't grab my door to my car to close it, and I don't even know what I did to my shoulder. But through getting a lot of active release therapy on it, and through starting to utilize the slingshot in here and do a bunch of other movements, over time I was able to get that shoulder to kind of free up. It still has some pain to it, but it's part of the reason why I'm really trying to manage the overall stress of the shoulder. So you're gonna see me throw on the slingshot even at like 225 today, and that will be probably my main working sets today because I'm working through and around injury. But what you're also gonna see me do is use a very slow tempo to try to get that area to heal and to strengthen. Hey, you know what, everybody? Cancel your gym memberships. A lot of people complain about what their gym has and doesn't have. If your gym doesn't have stuff that you don't like in it, then go to a different gym. If you're like, I don't have chains, and I don't have this, I don't have that, go somewhere that has it. I'm telling you, there's places that have it. And if you want to keep that gym membership for the convenience, got somewhere close to go, that makes sense. But here's just a simple chain curl. Weights are deloading at the bottom a bit. Oh. There are a lot of different ways to get stronger, but in my opinion, the best way to get the strongest is to have an accumulation over time. Because just like losing weight, anybody can lose weight really rapidly. And I would say that anyone can gain strength quickly in certain movements, certain exercises. Like if you committed to gaining 30 pounds of body weight in the course of 2 or 3 months, your squat would go up considerably if you're training hard. So gaining strength isn't always that hard of a thing, but if you're doing so for the long term and you want to be stronger 3-4 years from now, or you want to be elite, or you want to be one of the best, you don't just simply lift heavy. You lift weights that you can do properly with good technique and good form that are done unbroken over a really long period of time. It's going to take you years to accumulate strength, and at first you might start off with like a 315 deadlift. Somebody might say, oh shit, that's pretty good, 315 deadlift. But it's only pretty good, and in terms of powerlifting, it's not very good at all with the amount of weights that people are lifting nowadays. But as 315 turns into 365, and 365 turns into 405, and then before you know it, you're doing your max for sets of 10, you're doing 405 for a set of 10, and now you can deadlift like 555. Well, now we're really talking about something. How do you build that up? You have to be very patient, and you build that up by doing things like 5 sets of 5, 6 sets of 4, 8 sets of 3, 3 sets of 3, all those different kinds of prescriptions that you've heard over the years. And then how long is the rest in between? The rest is however long you need to be able to do another set, normally about 3 or 4 minutes. would be reasonable to be able to lift those same amount of weights. So there's a certain amount of work that's required to be strong, and unfortunately that certain amount of work takes a really long time. And if you want to be great at powerlifting, you multiply that times 3 times 5 times 10 and then you end up with a recipe of like having to do this for decades. To be a good powerlifter, I would say you need 5 years. To be a very good powerlifter, you need 10 years. And to be an all-time great powerlifter, that once you got past that 10-year mark is where you start to see that 10 to 15 years, not just of powerlifting, but of lifting in general, is probably about what it takes. Some shit I wish I knew when I was younger. I always knew that like full range of motion in terms of powerlifting was important, but I didn't really realize that over range of motion for the sport that I was playing, which was mainly powerlifting, would have done me a lot of good. And when you start to move your body past where your body needs to move in your sport, you end up getting a lot of tremendous benefits from it, and then you don't have to stretch. You don't have to spend a lot of time stretching your body. So I wish I did more stuff like this when I was younger. Tricep extensions where I'm getting a little bit of a stretch back in here, or even flies where I'm getting stretched way out in here. But the big advantage of doing movements like this now, especially with these chains, is that as there's more and more tension built up in my chest and my pecs, because they're very tight from being able to handle big weights over a long period of time, that really served me during my powerlifting career. But it doesn't serve me so well to like scratch the back of my head or to wash my head. It doesn't really serve me for certain positions of even just trying to put my hand behind my back or something like that, because there's so much tension built there. But it was great during my powerlifting career to have that tension because it helped make me explosive. Powerlifting, strength training, the reason why a lot of people aren't super strong when it comes to lifting weights is because it just takes a really long time. It takes many, many years. It also takes, the workouts are long. How do you expedite 5 sets of 5 with 4 to 5 minutes rest in between? You can't. It literally just takes a certain amount of time. The way that my mind has worked towards getting better at anything in my life has been just the understanding of it's just going to take a really long time. And even with the different things that I've done over the years, squatting over 1,000 pounds many times in competition, bench pressing over 800 pounds, the many different things that I've done and explored, there's a certain amount of work that is required to get to be great at something, and I still feel like I haven't even done it yet. I still feel like I'm in the process of doing it. What will happen a lot of times is people that are kind of in the middle and they're working on stuff and working towards stuff and working for certain things in their life, they'll feel like they're overwhelmed, that they did too much. Meanwhile, somebody that has already accomplished a lot of things feels like they haven't even started yet. That's the way I feel. It's a little bit more like a mindset thing. I am aware of some of the things that I've done, and I do think that they're pretty cool. But I literally also know in my heart and in my brain that I don't know anything, and that I still have so much more to learn and still so much more to commit to. You want to train through and around injuries, go over to marksmellybell.com. That's what the entire website is designed for. That's where the entire invention of the slingshot came from. Came from tearing my pecs 3 times. This guy twice, this guy once. I created the product because I was sick and tired of getting injured, and I wanted to be able to train through and around a lot of my injuries. So not only did I create a slingshot, but I was like, if you're going to be able to press more weight, then I should support more joints. So I'm like, let me take care of people's wrists as well. So then I made wrist wraps. Then I was like, well, let me take care of people's elbows. So then I made elbow sleeves, knee wraps, knee sleeves. Anything you can think of that makes lifting more convenient or more comfortable. We even make a product called shin savers. Literally, so you don't end up with shins like Mark Bell. This is from years of deadlifting, doing AMRAPs when I was a kid with 315 and 405, trying to get as many reps as I can. I think I did 19 reps, with 405, or 20 reps when I was around 18 or so. Brutal, but my shins would always be all bloody. So I designed a lot of products that help solve problems for me. You heard the fuck your elbow video. The compression cuffs were made out of necessity. My elbows would scream every single time I did a squat. And so I made a cuff, I made something that goes around your elbow to give you enough compression so you can get through your sets of squats more comfortably. So everything there is designed to lower the barrier of entry into training, because training can be painful, especially when you're trying to get after it. No one understands that better than someone like me who powerlifted for 30 years. Go over to marksmellybell and check out all the different options that we have to protect yourself before you wreck yourself from head to toe. I'm out of here. That's all the time we got for today. Strength is never a weakness. Weakness is never a strength. Catch you guys later.